raising women's voices.
One story at a time.
Welcome to the She Said Project podcast. Coming to you live from the WCIA podcast studio, it's the She Said Project podcast, starring your hosts, Jeanette Jerzyk and Carrie Rosso. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. Thank goodness it is not really live. Thank goodness.
Oh my God, you're right. We're not live at all.
Yeah, but thank goodness.
But we should be as professional and,
Right.
We should act like we're live because we want to put on our best faces forward.
Okay.
But, every now and then you have to get fancy, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we live in Illinois today, but Carrie, you hail from the Hoosier state, if I recall. Tell me about young Carrie Rosso growing up in Indiana.
It was kind of a dream. I grew up on a lake. There isn't an interstate that goes through the town that I grew up in. So it was really sort of a Mayberry type small town. Everyone knows everybody. You lake in the summer. And I worked for the Parks Department. It was
idyllic. It was
idyllic.
idyllic.
It really was.
Tell me what you know about the covered bridges in Indiana. I hear they're a thing.
They are a thing. Well, one, they're a great place. They're romantic. So if you're out what we used to call country cruising, because we didn't have other things. We didn't have a movie theater. So we would do country cruising where everybody piles in a car with your pals and you cruise around in the country. So covered bridges often dictated where we were going to go cruising. And they're just...
Where you could hide from the cops.
No,
okay,
never. We would never. But some people did do that. But it was just this magical, like now I think I didn't know it at the time. Like, I can't wait to get out of here. Like all of those typical young person
You don't
things.
realize what you have or how good it is until you've, moved away and look back with fond memories.
I've been gone over 35 years and I still go back. And if I go to my mom's grocer or just go through a run through town, I 100% will run into people that I know and that remember and will either talk about the glory days or I loved sports. So I'll run into an old teammate and we'll rehash all the old stories. And it's fabulous. I don't think there are that many hometowns you could go back to and people say, remember the time. And
I grew up in Linden, New Jersey, which is right outside of New York. And for me, moving to the Midwest, like when you drive 10 minutes in any direction, the town ends. And then there's like an hour of cornfields or soybean fields for a while before you hit the next town. But in New Jersey, one town ends and another one begins. It's suburb, right next to each other. And so, it's a very different environment.
It really is. And a lot of the perceptions, like when I moved here, I would often hear people say, we're more than just a cornfield. And I was so confused because to me, like, cornfields are beautiful. And like I had it was the backdrop of wonderful memories for me. And so I kept like wanting to whisper to the people, like, what's wrong with living in a cornfield? Like,
you didn't get it.
No, I didn't understand why people would say we're more than just cornfields.
Interesting fact, when I was in 6th grade, my parents moved us from Linden to the thriving metropolis of Flemington, New Jersey, Hunterdon County specifically, because
that sounds like I need to clear my throat.
It's a lot.
Sorry.
It's a lot. Flemington, Hunterdon, because it was much more vast and open than where we grew up. And the house that my parents built, they bought a lot that previously was a cornfield. So we have pictures of us visiting the cornfield that was the lot before the house was built back in the 80s. And so for us, leaving the dense city and moving to what used to be a cornfield felt like this crazy country. There's like cows down the road. And so even in New Jersey, we had that shift, but it's nothing like the cornfields of Illinois, even though New Jersey is the garden state and Jersey corn is pretty delicious.
Are you challenging me? It feels kind of like a
I think
challenge.
Jersey corn could give Illinois corn a run for its money.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was going back to my Hoosier state.
Ooh, Indiana corn? Yeah. See, nobody goes around going, yum, Indiana corn. I've never heard that.
I do.
You do?
Well, I mean, I might not say it like that, but like I can't wait for summer food. I can't wait for
It still confuses me that New Jersey is the Garden State, but it is. There's lots of tomatoes, corn, lots of farm stands. I have those memories for sure. So I bring up Indiana for a reason, because our guest today on the podcast comes from one of our newer That's What She Said shows that popped up in 2025. And even though her origin story is a little bit different, it's not quite from this location, she told her story on stage in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is a hop, skip, and a very long jump from Champaign-Urbana, where we sit. But she decided to make the journey and is joining us in person in the studio. Welcome, Debra Olson.
So much.
Yay!
That's what she said, Terre Haute.
where my sister graduated from, Indiana State.
yes.
So I'm so excited. Who's your girl? To
Yeah,
Who's
another
Your Girl?
college town. Wonderful community. I've gotten to know it just a little bit through our team there, Bev Merritt Hicks, who's been producing the show. And we're coming up on our second Terre Haute show. And she's been helping us grow in Indiana. Now, Debra, tell us your origin story. Like you're not.
Well, I'm really old, so I'm going to make it
We
as
have time.
short
We
as
have
I
time.
can. No, I'll make it as short as I can. I was born and raised in Champaign-Urbana, actually in the outskirts, because my parents and our families, both sides, were farmers. And the reason why it catches me when you say, Indiana corn's better than Illinois corn. Actually, Indiana's kind of known for their melons, too. Indiana melons are supposed to be the best. But Indiana does have the eating corn. This corn around here is made for, it's not food grade. So you have very little spots, like where Frito-Lay, where they can take their grain to Frito-Lay. Around here, it's more for,
Cattle
cattle and the soybeans
Industrial
for the
uses,
oil.
yeah.
Yes. So I lived here until about 20 years ago. And my husband and I raised our children just outside of Rantoul, Illinois. So we were still in Champaign County. And then, like I said on the stage, sometimes you lose your compass, and I definitely was one that really went off the rails and lost my compass. And I just never even thought I'd move from here, and I found myself just within a short time, everything switched for me, and I moved to Rockville, Indiana, and that's Park County. And I will say that I couldn't say enough good things about it. I don't have anything bad. I have nothing bad about Champaign County either, because that's home and that's family. But Park County is just a very special, special place. It's to me, it has the most or the largest amount of volunteers, and volunteerism is like everything, because you understand, we put on a festival once a year, and it's called the Covered Bridge Festival, and it's the largest. We have the most covered bridges in one county in the nation. We have 2.5 state parks there. So this goes back to, it's a pretty special place, and it's really booming. And it's just as like you hit Park County, you're right over the Wabash, and boom, you get to this beautiful, beautiful county, Park County. So yes, while I lost my compass, my compass did take me to a good place, though. So it was just a
It was the next stop on your journey.
It was part of my journey.
And so we actually found lovely Debra. It's kind of an interesting story because you started here in Champaign-Urbana,
definitely.
but our lovely production manager, Kevin McGuire, who's been with That's What She Said since the dawn of time, has known Debra for many, many years. But Kevin is very passionate about the covered bridges and Park County, and has told me so many stories and has so many memories, and that part of Indiana is very special to him as well.
Most
so
definitely.
he's been telling me about you and your life there for years. He's like, you have to meet Debra. You have to get her story. We need to get her in the She Said family. And so when we launched in Terre Haute, that was, I think, the first call was, Bev, meet Debra. Debra, meet Bev. We have to do this. And
Gosh,
So-
that is such an honor. That is really an honor for an off-the-rail person like I am sometimes. That is really nice. And yes, he is the reason that I got involved in this, because I remember he gave me tickets. We went to one of the first shows that was here in Champaign. I can't remember.
I think it was at the
what-
Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah, he was
yes.
looking for those photos to remember.
Yes.
There's a picture, I think, of the three of us
Yes.
from the night she came to visit.
Yeah, and so, he'd always say it, and I'd be like, oh, that's just like showing your underwear. I don't want to show my dirty underwear. No, I can't do that. I can't do it. And I guess it just all fell into place when it came to Terre Haute.
Well, when it's time to show your underwear, Deborah, it's
yeah,
time.
It's time.
Yeah, my story.
I've never heard that comparison before.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe we're going to have to use that one. That's pretty good.
I probably got a few of them.
Yeah, well, and I think Indiana, we're known, I think we have a lot of sayings, and so you might have the same
But
experience.
I make up my own.
We make up our own.
Yes.
Everyone in my family hung their clothes out, and my folks would often say, like, don't show your underwear, like, and that
Right.
means don't show any, ugliness.
Right.
But for me, I was like, y'all hang my skivvies out every week, and you're telling me not to show my underwear? Like, it's all out there.
Now, that's funny you say that, because when you go through our county, and we are the majority, like I think it's 60-some% of our farmland in Park County is owned by the Amish. And a funny thing, I love hanging clothes on the line. They hang clothes on the line. Never do you see their underwear. Not the babies, not anyone's underwear. That is all hung in the house. So you will see like a half-mile long flapping in the wind,
But no skivvies.
No.
Never noticed that.
No. I have no problem
We
hanging
learn
underwear out.
things every day. So Deborah's not wrong. She likes to coin phrases and create these sayings that then become part of our nomenclature, I think. We're going to learn a few from her and her story. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get to listen and watch Deborah's story from That's What She Said, Terre Haute. And I don't know, maybe see where she hangs her underwear out to dry. We'll be right back.
Show your undies.
It's all about the stories here at the She Said Project. And today we're excited to share with you this story from That's What She Said, Terre Haute 2025. Please enjoy Debra Olson and her story. It's all about the door.
It's an honor to be here tonight to share my story from jail. Yes, jail. Not because I was incarcerated, but I trespassed on county property into an abandoned jail in Park County, Indiana. I entered through an unlocked door leading into a basement. It was dark, it was dirty, and it was kind of scary. I walked about 8 foot inside, and I decided to turn around and leave. As I swung to my right, my eyes fell upon a round-top, flat steel iron door from 1879. Original, pitted with rust and spider webs. I know great rust from years of dumpster diving. So 20 minutes later, a short conversation with the Visitors Bureau, and they agreed to sell me the door. I wrote a check, and they told me to come back in a few days just to make sure the check cleared. A couple days later, with some able bodies and a truck, I went to pick up the door. Much to my surprise, though, the contact at the Visitors Center and the board president presented me with keys and paperwork. All I had to do was sign. Yes, sign the deed. They threw the building in with the door. This is the truth. Well, my able bodies left, and the reps from the Visitor Center left, and there I was. I was dumbfounded. I never had been inside of a jail, working or retired. All I wanted was a door, and I had bought the door and the jail with money from a 30-plus year marriage that I ended in divorce. If buying a jail was not a curveball, I was also swept off my feet by a goon pecker. Yeah, Goonpecker. You spell that Goonepecker. Yes, I'm sure I don't have to explain to you what a jail is, but you might need an explanation of what a goonpecker is. It's a man who's a narcissist. He's a womanizer. He's a liar. He's a physical abuser. He's a thief, and he's a cheat. Buying a jail and having a goonpecker was hardly an easy explanation to my 2 adult children. How do you explain a relationship with a human who they saw right through, and they would never understand purchasing a jail? Truly, I was in the eye of a tornado, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I walked through my new purchase, and I remember exactly where I stood between the small cells and the visitor cell. I declared it was an inn. The cells would give any person the experience of staying in an 1879 historic jail. Who wouldn't want to stay? I mean, really. That experience of a tiny cell with cozy 400 thread count sheets with just enough room to wiggle in and slam the bars shut. I had a vision, and it would come together, even though Goonpecker was like running into a brick wall at every turn of the entire project. If only I could lock him behind the round-top steel door, life could have been so much easier. There were bumps that did not stop me. The support from the community, my one and only employee, Trina, I could feel that jail had a heart, not an evil feeling, but an empty heart that needed to be filled. I created my own living space, 2nd floor, facing the courthouse. Previously, it had been juvenile hall, the sheriff's bedroom, and of course, a padded cell. All this in less than 5 months. There were a few main factors, unplanned and foreign to me, that made the next year so successful. One is the power of social media, which opened doors around the world, even found me on HGTV. A strong woman named Trina helped me build my dream and saved my life as the new sheriff in town. The strongest strength came from my own inner voice and my faith. I found a way back to my moral compass, and of course, my parents, who gave me the example of a strong work ethic and unconditional love. I could not pretend that the demon, the Goonpecker, was an asset in my life, and my new career could not blossom till I was rid of the devil that lived with me in the jail. At the end of each day, my energy turned into survival. When you lay with the devil works hard to break you farther down and apart. But my inner voice was louder than that wicked words of a Goonpecker. So in the midst of severe physical and mental abuse from him, I decided he had to go. So I came up with a plan to do so. I could have easily worked for the FBI or the CIA. I secretly secured an attorney months prior. And one morning on the way out the door, I said, hey, I got to run over to the courthouse. I need to pay some taxes. So I ran across the courthouse lawn in time for a court hearing. In less than 20 minutes, the attorney had secured 2 county officers to serve him divorce paperwork. It was a tough couple days for him to understand a restraining order. I will never forget the days that followed. The lady who came to me, her brother and his wife, who had stayed the previous weekend, had left early the next morning because her brother had just returned from Iran, a soldier. He felt uncomfortable from the thumping he heard above his cell. from my living quarters. He could feel the evil, and he was right. I knew that my customers would be the light I needed to see through the dark, and they were. And Goonpecker found out fast that biker groups, especially the 1%ers, who only follow 1% of the law, my main customer base, would do anything to protect me against him. They outnumbered him many times over, and just like that, that door closed. I would never allow another evil person to drain the air from my room or threaten my security again. When that chapter closed, I literally could feel my wings spread and I soared. Yeah, did. Whew. The most interesting part of my later in life story is the cast of characters, the guests that I was gathering every day, that weaved a story starting with an old door in a vacant jail into the most remarkable adventure of my life. Every day there were new guests. I became a pretend marriage counselor. I'm really good at that. I held the hands of people who lost children and grandchildren. I heard people's secrets, their regrets, and their triumphs. The door was open for couples to honeymoon, to get married, or decide to get divorced, and one-night stands, and so much more. I was there to listen, a shoulder to cry on, and an ear to hear confessions. I met guests that had been shot. I met guests who had shot people. I had guests that had stayed in the jail years prior when it was the real thing. Yeah, I had bank robbers, family members as guests. I had believers in the paranormal. I had Christians, believers, and people who just looked for something to believe in. They were encouraged to leave their stories on the concrete walls of the jail. And when I sold that jail after 13 years, there were entire walls filled with stories that are priceless. What I never expected was a personal blessing so big, it took years. It took years to feel I deserved it. It came from a chance meeting on the porch of the jail. A Chicago-born and raised businessman, a world traveler, a father, a widower. He opened an unexpected love story that could have aired on Hallmark and became our fate. He made the last 8 years of owning the jail incredible. My businesses grew, and in ways I could never have expected. I can never get back time or respect I lost with my children or my grandchildren, or forgive myself for the man I hurt from ending my first marriage. But I can make up for it for being present and full of grace for the rest of my life to my family, my friends, and strangers. Yes. Being in a safe place with a great partner is priceless. I tried many times in the last 3 years since selling the jail to write a book, and not for fame or fortune, but to give hope to others who are living in the shadow of darkness. I have the stories, I have the pictures, even the name of the book. It's all about the door. Now I just need to do it so I can share my story of a jail with a big heart and an old door for others to read and believe in miracles. Thank you very much.
Wow. Carrie, when was the last time you bought a door and you were handed the deed to a building?
A jail.
A jail. An
Handed
old,
the keys
abandoned
to a jail.
That is a remarkable moment. I keep trying
Yeah,
to
like
relive
I've
that
spent
one
my
in my
life
head.
trying to stay out of the big house, and then to all of a sudden be holding the keys. My goodness, what a
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I was just going to take the door, and silly me to think that there was probably 20 inches of concrete and sandstone that was holding that door in place. I would have
Didn't
been
occur to
chipping
you.
away for like a year to get that door off of that.
But
out
what
of
was
there.
the plan? What were you going to do with
Oh,
the door?
I was going to just make some business. I mean, I had businesses when I was back in Champaign County and everything. I had flower shops and all kinds of stuff. I've always been creative that way. I was just going to take the door and use that as the opening to something else. And I knew tourism was big in that town, so I knew it was going to have to be something like that. But I never thought it would be. I mean, we're talking 1879 was when the building was. It was the third jail to the county, and the other jail, and it was the first jail and only jail that had the last hanging in the county behind it. So I had where they did the hanging too, where they walked out and he was, gone.
Oh my goodness.
Kind of wanted to do that to the goonpecker too. Just want to say that.
Okay, can we just talk about goonpecker?
Yeah.
I've
But
heard a lot of phrases.
yeah.
That one is new for me.
Is that new
Yeah.
one? New
Well,
one.
you know what happened? There was just, it had to have been an angel. There was just this lady in the jail, in one of the back rooms where they used to make commissary food and things. I put in a beauty shop and a little spa thing because all my guests came and bikers wanted their backs waxed. And I did all kinds of cool stuff like that, all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, I had this lady, I was doing her hair. I just got out of doing, I got my license when I was like 50. So do the math. And so she was sitting there and she's looking in the mirror and she goes, "Well, you know what I think of your boyfriend?" And I go, "Well, I don't know, and I'm going, "Oh, God, I hope he's not out there. He's a goonpecker." And I was like, wow. I even looked up the word. I thought maybe it was in that off dictionary or someone, no, I'm pretty sure she made that up. But
it stuck.
and I blatantly called him that. I mean, I never called him by name. I to this day, I have to recall to remember. I don't want to remember, but goonpecker was what I called it. And I didn't give him a big voice in my message because I wanted that to be the small part. I wanted everyone to take away that you can have a goon. You don't know this, but you can have a goonpecker. Never thought in a million years that would happen to me. That walks through your life, and the devil works in weird ways, and that's what happened.
And I think everyone has, in some form, it takes different forms, a goonpecker. I'm going to now find many ways to just work that into conversation. But so many people have, whether it is a person or a situation or an occupation.
Or even another woman. It can be a man or a woman thing.
Oh, yeah.
You can have a woman goonpecker, too.
Everybody's going to have goonpecker to deal with. And so I liked that it wasn't a name because then it was a fill in the blank. Whatever your thing is, you can.
You gave enough of a sampling of who this person was to you that we could fill in the blanks for ourselves. We understood the darkness, but we wanted to hear your journey out, right? So you didn't stay in it for very long.
No, I didn't. And it really, honestly, it was like a 13, 14-month from beginning to end experience. Like when I left Illinois to go to Indiana, it was only like 14 or 15 months. And a lot can happen in that time. The only thing I have to say is when you watch my, when I did my speech, everyone else did their speech like this, and they'd get to a little bit of a part that their emotions took over. It was like I have spoke all over the nation in other businesses and have no problem with speaking. But when it was about yourself, and it was about abuse, and it was about things like that. But I'll add in the thing, I don't know if you know this either, that my daughter had never heard the story, and she came from Champaign and was in the crowd. And literally, she walked past the window of where we were getting ready, and she kind of knocked and hi, and I'm like, ah. I mean, I literally went into full-blown panic. I had not had panic attacks or anything like that for years.
Did you know she was coming?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Now you're going to really air your dirty laundry and your mom. I mean, you're going to walk out of that building and not say who your mom is, but she, I at that time now, looking back, I almost wish my son would have been there too. He's 49 today. She's 48. But, I mean, they heard things they didn't know because once he was out, they didn't want to talk about it. Now, they weren't all that, she wasn't, and neither was my son, all that kicked about me owning a jail because, like, when it was on HGTV and everything, like, oh, my gosh, your mom's on HGTV. And my grandkids were little then, and they went, I don't know if you all know where St. Joe, Illinois is, right outside of town here. They were in preschool, and they'd say, like, well, how was your weekend, or what'd you do? And Peyton would always say things like, well, I went to see my Gammy in jail. And they would go, oh, we know your Gammy. No, she's not in jail. There's bars. She'd say, there's bars. And
there's bars.
Yes, and so
in jail at the bars.
Jail, because where they slept, there was bars, and they'd climb on the bars and everything else. And then one of them went to Sunday school and told the entire Sunday school class in the basement that Grandma was, Gammy was in jail, and everybody knew me there. So that didn't go over real well. But anyway, so there's so many behinds when you see what I did. There's, it was like the first time.
And I think it's so important that I think all of us have stereotypes of who falls into certain goonpecker situations.
Yes.
And I think you being a strong, independent, amazing.
And at my age.
Right.
I mean, it was overwhelming. And literally the first night, the first day, then I had never had abuse. I had never had it in my home growing up. I had never had it in my marriage, nothing like that. This was like that wake you up at 1 a.m, wake you up at 3 a.m. And I could tell nobody. That was the scary part too. There was, you in that situation, oh, you're gonna love him. Yes, his name is blah, blah. And I wanted to say goonpecker. And it started from day one. So I hid a secret.
So day one after the marriage, right?
No, day one before.
So how
you still
quickly
married?
you could get, your brain could get into that way of thinking.
Oh, if you get sleep deprived enough, you fall into abuse very easy.
Oh, wow.
And a really good goonpecker will get you really sleep deprived. And you got to understand, I was 50 when that happened, or 53 or something like that. I can't remember, do the math. But that made a weaker part of me too. So I'm not making an excuse, but I did tell my story because you can be my age. I'm not a 20-year-old, So there you go.
Debra, your story is so important to share that message with women of all ages. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Debra Olson. So Debra, even though you went through what you did with the goonpecker, you shared the next chapter, right? Finding love, having a successful business. So something that I took away from your story, and I don't know if you shared it this way on purpose or if you even see it, but because of the darkness, it gives perspective that you can then truly understand what is good and right and what you deserve. And not that you should have to live through that to learn that lesson, but did you find that there was any, because of that experience, you could see the world in a different way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is a really good question because I hope we have just a minute of time I can say this. There is is it called an aura when there's something around
Yes.
someone? Do you know that he had that? And there was a man that I had a lady work for me, and she had been in an abusive situation. She was one of my cleaning ladies. And actually, she died this past year. But she had been abused. Her ex-husband walked in the door of the common door into the jail one time, and it literally, it felt like it set me back. I could feel it in my chest. So, going forward in my life, I have come across things that, I mean, it sounds like
You have a sixth sense.
I know, I don't mean it. I
In a
don't mean
woo-woo
it
way,
in a
but it's-
weird way.
Yeah. Well, it's
But-
called knowledge and perspective
Well, trusting
knowing.
yourself, and I
Yeah.
think our bodies are equipped in ways that we don't
Yes.
acknowledge. And when your body, when the hair stands up, or when you have
Yes.
a feeling, and we think, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to be silly. I don't want to be woo-woo. I don't want to be." When your body's telling you something, trust how you're built and your gut.
And I could have been in that for years. He was never going to move out of it because I was I was the person who could get him in places he could never get in. And meet people and blah, 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 all that.
So we were asking you, what are the things, I think that telling your story is so powerful, and for people seeing, what is prevention, Jeanette was asking. And I said awareness and you said knowledge at the same time.
Absolutely.
I think the same thing. So I think if everybody in telling stories like that, because often women won't tell those stories because they feel embarrassment or shame or how did I let that happen to myself? Realizing, because when you say, how did I let that happen to myself? You put the onus on yourself. It was done to you. It wasn't something you did. So I think sharing stories like this, and then women who, I'm 54 years old, and in my mind, I'm happily married. I would never.
Yes.
Next thing you know, there you go, never,
Yes.
nevering. Don't be too complacent.
And literally, when it all happened, it happened because I met him over cutting his hair. And all of a sudden, all those times, he took a little bit of knowledge, literally I didn't even tell this part of it, but actually he would even come to Illinois and drive by my house, and he would threaten people. I'd never met anyone that had threatened anyone until I got to jail and met all my biker friends. But he did deep stuff that was scary.
Talking about your new friends, I also, a component of your story that I think is so important and special is that you had an open heart to new things, new people, new experiences.
Oh, but you know what? I think anyone else, everything works for a reason and everything works for a season. I think that some people would go, oh, yeah, I think you would be perfect, but no, because you don't trust yourself after that. Even for years, I can say, oh my gosh, I am such a bad judge of character. I mean, I love everybody, and oh my gosh, just come on, I welcome them into my world. So I guess it didn't stop me from doing that, but I got to tell you, had I not opened my heart on that, I would have missed out on something that I don't mean to say there's love stories, but this was just a really, and Kevin can tell you, he saw it all. This was just a love story that happened in jail that makes another chapter of having
Of the book. Of the book.
Of the book.
Let's talk about the book.
Wait, let's talk
Okay.
about the book, but I need to know what the intro is. I still don't really know, how did you know that was what you were going to tell? So Kevin had been talking you up, then this happened. Did you know, this is what I'm going to tell, or did it take some time to come to it?
I knew, because I knew that Kevin knew the entire story, that I knew he had probably cued them in. So when I went there, I knew we weren't going to just talk about a jail, because anybody can buy a jail. Anybody can buy a building and a barn or something and make a, great business out of it. But I kind of had that inkling.
There were layers to your story.
And layers that you all knew by the time I met you. That was a whole interesting process, which I would highly suggest, if you are honored enough to be asked to be on one of these, that you at least go and try it. Some of the people that we had in the beginning didn't go to the end, but I got to tell you, their stories stay with me forever.
Absolutely. I was at that first rehearsal when everyone was just sharing the preliminary thoughts.
And I thought mine was nothing after one of them, and I was like, I don't know. This is a really, it was a deep story after a deep story. But that whole process works. You got to understand, 2 of the people that were in our group lost their mothers. There were a lot of stuff that happened. There was like layers underneath the surface of the water.
So everybody sees the performance and everybody sees the ending, but what the women that are in the cast go through and that journey from beginning to end, and hearing other people's stories and the connections you have with them.
Yep.
All of the behind, everything that happens before you step on the stage is also so magical.
And it goes with you for your life. It really, you're happy in their triumphs, and you stay underwater, and there's a couple of them that have had issues and things like that. And I have to tell you that, you keep them in your prayers. These women were, I felt, I have a lot of confidence, but I felt unworthy up to some of their stories. Their stories were childhood all the way through. Some of them in ours were from their childhood.
Beautiful group of women. Always. But it's such an interesting, you see like a tapestry of women's experiences from that community. And it's so unique and special and also universal. It's unique to them, unique to the moment, and yet women everywhere can relate. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. So, Debra, you've shared so many different chapters of your story now, and I just can't help but see them all laying out as the chapters of your book. So you mentioned it. What's the plan?
Well, I have a customer, and Robert, I'm just blank on his last name. He is an author in Chicago, and he was a guest right in the beginning of when I opened, even when Goonpecker was there. And so I've watched his kids grow up and everything, and he's written like 20 books and he's just world renowned. His wife is the head at Northwestern in, I don't even know, writing or something like that. And he has offered to help, and he gave me tips. So I started to use the tips, and I'd think, okay, I can do this. Well, Greg said, well, you can't do it at home. So we went to Rome. And we got a old place right in the middle of the city, by Capodifore. And here's me. We were there like a month and a half. And here I sit at the typewriter and I go, I wonder how old this building is. My ADD was off the charts. And I probably didn't write 2 paragraphs for the entire 6 weeks.
Shush.
But yes. And then, Robert would say, Elder is his last name, Robert Elder. And he would say, you just do this. And I'm going, I can't you write it for me? No. He said, you can get a ghostwriter. And I've thought, yeah, and I've reached out, and then I think, well, like, who would really want to read it? But I think the stories would be interesting. I'm talking, I had Dillinger's family stay with me. And I'm not saying this, I hope it's okay, but the Delphi murders, the grandparents stayed there right in the first few months, stayed with me. And I really had a man who shot a woman at 18 in the face right here, and the bullet went through to here. I had them stay, and he had come there to stay because he was in prison with the 2 or 3 guys that did the Hollingberg murders years ago. And those murderers, when they were sitting in jail somewhere, I mean, this is how many stories go out there. The Hollingsburg murderers had told him what room they stayed in. So this man who was in prison with them rented that room. And he said, I just have to tell you why.
When they were in jail, he rented, so they were in the jail when it was a jail.
The Hollingsburg
And
murders
he wanted to
he wanted
rent
to
the
stay
room
where they
that was
had
their jail
stayed.
cell.
Oh, man.
That's not creepy.
Okay.
Yeah,
As
that
a
was
mother,
lot.
and I think we're like the same age, but I still have
No,
the mother.
I'm 70. No, you can't be.
Shut up.
I'm 70.
Yeah.
I just
What?
turned 70.
She's a liar too.
Clearly.
No.
But I'm thinking of like security. Did you feel were there security concerns?
Oh my
Did
gosh,
you-
no. Because where I slept, well, on the Goonpecker part,
Yeah,
yeah,
in your own
because that
house,
had
yeah.
to be a little
I mean,
scary.
just living and working in a jail. Let's go there.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. No, it's great because you slam a door and you either have to go to the buzzer box or you have to carry this big chunk of keys that are real jail. I should have brought one, a jail key, you know.
Before you turned it into a bed and breakfast, what was it just a jail or was it a active business before that?
No. It closed, and it had been closed for 8 or 9 years.
So it was not an
or
active
longer.
anything until you turned it into a
no. Yes, and it had
Airbnb.
not an Airbnb. It was an inn, so you had to call in to get your reservations.
Reservations,
It wasn't.
yeah.
Well, I did do it online, but not through Airbnb. But yes. And it's still still a working. You can still go stay there, and it's really has a cool. Then I don't drink at all. I've never drank a bottle of wine or even a glass of wine. And I
Same.
I started a wine bar,
What?
and that is what tied my success. So I had a wine bar where the drunk tank was, where the door was. That door was the door into the drunk tank. So people would come in that had known the place before. Well, my uncle died back in there, and I even had a tunnel to the courthouse through the drunk tank. I mean, y'all have to just go by there.
We're just going to have to come
You're
on
going to
by.
have
Road
to
trip.
do a road
Yeah.
trip.
Road trip.
Yes, look at it's Old Jail in Park County online.
Now, Kevin shared some photos
Oh.
that show some history of not just you, but this part of Indiana and the jail building. Am I correct that there's pictures of you as a child in this neighborhood?
Now you tell me this isn't weird.
Tell me about this.
So on Sundays after church, my parents, we would when the Covered Bridge Festival was going on, I mean, literally probably $1.25 in our pockets, and gas was whatever it was. We drove there, and a fluky thing. I was looking through pictures. I can't remember if it was when I owned the jail or when I not. And here is me as a child climbing up on a rock, and right behind me was the old jail, the red old jail, right there. I looked at that picture and I thought, oh my God, I've already been there, I think it was a jail then, though. I think it was a working jail then.
Wow.
Yeah, because I knew the people who had started their work there, like our sheriff. He had started there as a bailiff, and the lady that owns the antique shop in town, Aunt Patty, she had been the person who took the calls and opened the doors, because there's buzzer doors that you open and it goes bzzz, real loud. Oh, people love that crap. That was a good way to get people up in the morning, too, if you wanted them to leave. Like, snap,
Time to
snap,
go.
I got 11 beds to make. Yeah, I had 11.
Like this fated moment of you, like the building you would one day own and have this story unravel.
Yes. Isn't that weird?
It's
I mean,
weird in a cool way.
And I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, how I could have had any other backdrop. I could have had the courthouse.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would have turned to the north, I would have been the courthouse. I could have turned the other way. It could have been the town hall. But it was turned right at that corner of High and Jefferson. Yes. Isn't that weird?
And I love stories, and I love like old houses and think of all the stories they hold. And it might be presumptuous, but I would presume that a lot of the stories that happen in a jail are sad stories, and so I think.
Oh no, there's some that are so much about people who got put in jail. I'll never forget this one. This guy goes, my friend and I were put in jail in here. He was put in here on his wedding night, and we had to stay here 6 months. And when we left, we had more pot in the bottom of our shoes that we had gotten from the basement where the drunk tank was. They had what do you call it when evidence? The evidence room was so full of pot, and whoever was in there, they made them sweep floors and stuff. They filled their shoes with pot and left with more pot than they had gotten busted for.
They're going to smoke the evidence.
Yeah,
Smoke the evidence.
No, they just felt like that's what their treat was to go home. No, there are a lot of sad stories. There were a lot of funny stories too.
All right, Deborah, we only have about a minute. So, I mean, all in all, was your She Said experience a positive, happy, joyful? You would do it again?
I'd absolutely do it again. And not only that, it was a chapter changer for me.
Yeah.
It changed into a new chapter. It was almost like I had kept this secret, and I felt safe enough and old enough to tell it. And the only reason was I knew Kevin said it would help someone else. Kevin was the only reason. And Greg was like, go. You need
Well,
to
now
do it.
we all get to enjoy Deborah in our lives, and we're so grateful.
Thank you.
I've decided we need to write that book, so we're going to pack our bags. 6 weeks in Rome,
I'm not
apparently.
staying. Okay, because I was like, wait, I'm not staying in a jail cell. I'm a chicken.
No, but did you hear?
But
When you write a book,
Rome,
you go to Rome for 6
absolutely.
weeks.
We go all the time.
That's
we go
what I
every
took
year.
away.
all the time. I
No,
wanna
we
be
go
able to
every
say
year.
that.
Yeah, but you're old. I'm old, okay? And he loves to travel there. And it's just like we go to the same piazza and everything, yeah.
Like you do. You
Yeah,
know,
you
every
do.
time you're in
Like
Rome.
No,
you do.
I didn't mean that in a. I
Oh, I
didn't mean
know.
that
Oh,
in
no,
a
I know.
la-di-da way. Because
You couldn't if you
no,
tried.
No, I
We're
didn't
just
mean that.
teasing you, my darling.
I know, but
we
it was
love
great.
that you get these experiences, and we love that you came to share a little bit of your world with us. So
Thank you.
that's all the time we have. It was a joy catching up with you, Deborah, and our friends in Terre Haute. We love you, and thank you, Carrie, and everyone at WCIA. That's all the time we have here on today's episode of the She Said Project podcast. Thank you for listening to the She Said Project podcast. All materials contained in the podcast are the exclusive property of the She Said Project, and That's What She Said, LLC. For more information on our live shows, go to shesaidproject.com.